Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me again in this live section. So guys, I want you to just listen to what I have to say carefully. If you know you're doing something, just leave it for now and just listen to what I'm about to say. Now, what I'm about to say is something I know for sure. Nnamdi Kanu will never support this, not today, not even tomorrow, not in 100 years. This so-called indigenous bill that Benjamin Kanu and Hope Uzodinma are pushing in the National Assembly is one of the biggest embarrassment to the Igbo nation in recent time. Now, Hope Uzodinma and Benjamin Kanu have been pushing one particular bill, to the National Assembly, and this is a sort of embarrassment. And I'm very sure that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will never accept such a bill. For those who don't know, this indigenous bill will allow anybody born in a state or who has lived there for 10 years to become an indigene of that state. On the surface, it sounds harmless, but in reality, this is political suicide for the Igbo nation. Now, Benjamin Kalu and Hope Uzodinma think they are practicing American system of unity. They believe in one Nigeria so deeply that they are willing to trade away our ancestral land and identity for the sake of fake togetherness. But Nigeria is not the United States. We are different nations, different cultures, forced into a unitary system that is already broken. Now, do you know what is most insulting? The Yorubas and other tribes are mocking us already. They are saying, you Igbos want to throw away your own land and identity. Even they can see the danger while our own leaders are blind. This is why I say with confidence, Nnamdi Kanu will never support this nonsense. His entire struggle has been to protect Igbo land, culture, and identity. This indigenous bill is the opposite of everything he has ever stood for. Now, let's be honest. Benjamin Kanu and Hope Uzodinma are not doing this for Igbo unity. They are doing it for political relevance, to please the cabal. You guys know the people I call the cabal. They are these northerners and these Fulani headers, and to sell us cheap in this fake union. The North will never allow this in their own land. Why are the Igbos the ones only sacrificing their future for a country that doesn't even respect them? Now, if the indigenous bill passes, it will be the beginning of the end for Igbo political strength in Nigeria. We will lose our land, our rights, and even our cultural titles to outsiders. This is not unity, this is betrayal, and history will never forgive the people who are behind it. They will never. Imagine passing that kind of bill. I don't even think that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will ever accept this new bill. Now, the political implications of this new bill. This bill will allow non-Igbos who live 10 plus years in the East to claim indigenous status and contest for governorship or key political positions. It opens the door for outsiders to dominate Igbo state and politically diluting Igbo representation in Nigeria. It could be used as a weapon by the federal government to plant political agents in Igbo land and cultural threats. Once you become an indigene, you gain right to ancestral land over time. This could displace true Igbo dissidents. It risks cultural erosion because outsiders can claim traditional titles meant for indigenous bloodlines. In the long run, it could weaken the argument for Biafra because the definition of Igbo indigene will be blood. Now, Nigerians' double standard point out that the North will never allow this in their state. Even after 50 years of living in Kano or Sokoto, an Igbo man is still treated as a foreigner. Let's ask, if they won't open their land to us, why our own leaders opening our land to them? If the Northerners are not going to open their land to them, so why is our own leaders opening the land to them? Shows how this bill benefits other regions more than it benefits the East. This new bill now that they want to pass, it is only benefiting the Northerners. It is not even benefiting us at all. It is not benefiting the East. That is just it. So the economic consequences of all this, outsiders gain indigenous status means they can benefit from scholarship, employment quotas, and state resources reserved for Igbos. This could increase unemployment among Igbo youths as resources are shared with people who are not originally from the land. Now, historical context. Let's link it to the Nigerian Civil War and how land and identity were at the core of the Igbo struggle. Now, let's point out that after the war, policies like abandoned properties and E20 compensation were used to dispose Igbos of their assets. One that this bill is another subtle attempt to weaken Igbo land ownership permanently. Now, this is Kanu's standpoint. Referencing Nnamdi Kanu's repeated statement, he said, "Our land is our life. When you lose your land, you lose your identity." say this bill is a direct violation of that principle, highlight how IPOB always warns against policies that assimilate Igbos into Nigeria at the expenses of what? Of our heritage. Now, the emotional appeal of all these things. Imagine a future where your children are strangers in their own father's land because politicians sold indigenous status to outsiders. What legacy are Benjamin Kalu and Hope Uzodinma leaving for the next generation? Is it betrayal or protection? Because I don't understand. I don't understand why they're saying that we should give our lands to the northerners. Why? Why they say we should give our lands to the northerners? Why is Benjamin Kalu and Hope Uzodinma supporting this kind of motion? Imagine a future where your children are strangers in their own father's land because politicians have sold indigenous status to outsiders. Just imagine that kind of thing. Hope Uzodinma and Benjamin Kalu is a big shame. They're embarrassment to us. Is this a form of betrayal or what? Is this a form of betrayal or protection? When they say that our generation, maybe our future children will not be strangers in their own land, in the sense that their land, their own father's land has not been sold towards outsiders, and they now become strangers in their own land. That is what they want. That is what Benjamin Kalu and Hope Uzodinma want. And I know that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will never accept this kind of bill. He will never accept it. Now, in this, let us take a look at the security angle. Imagine allowing outsiders to gain indigenous status easily could lead to security what? Infiltration of Igbo land by groups loyal to other world regions. It can open the door for land grabbing under what legal disguise. In a country where ethnic clashes are common, this bill may create future conflicts over ownership and control of resources. Now, traditional institution, if the bill passes, a non-Igbo could legally become a king or a traditional ruler in the East after 10 years. This will slowly destroy Igbo traditional authority because titles will no longer be tied to bloodline and heritage. Now, let's take a look at the federal manipulation. The bill looks innocent but can be used by the federal government as a political tool to weaken the East. They can move loyalists into Igbo land, wait 10 years, and then grant them right to control political structures. This is how you colonize a people without war, by challenging their demographic worth legally. Now, constitutional contradiction. Nigeria's constitution already recognizes indigene versus settler because of the country's fragile unity. This bill clashes with that reality and could create a constitutional crisis, especially in states where land ownership is tied to lineage. Now, religious implications. With the North being predominant Muslim and the East predominant Christians, this bill could change the religious landscape of Igbo states over time. It may lead to tension if outsiders start demanding mosque, Sharia courts, or different cultural system in ancestral Igbo towns. Now, the economic control. Outsiders who become indigenous can access state contracts, land and business opportunities reserved for natives. Over decades, this could lead to economic domination of the East by non-Igbos, while true indigenes will lose out. Now, the Igbo diaspora question. This is the Igbo diaspora question that I'll be asking. They're asking, why Benjamin? The Igbo diaspora question is asking, why Benjamin Kanu and Hope Uzodinma are not pushing a bill to protect Igbos living in the North and West instead. Like, the question is, why are they not even pushing a bill that the bill is to protect Igbos who are living in the North and the West? Instead, they're pushing a bill they're pushing a bill to give Northerners Igbo people's land. They want to give Northerners our own land. They want to give Northerners Igbo people's land. They're not. That's the only bill they are pushing. Instead of them to be pushing bill of protecting the Igbos who are living in the North, they go about pushing another kind of bill. And this is what Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will never tolerate from them. He will never tolerate it. Imagine pushing a bill whereby you are telling the North to come and collect Igbo people's land, but you can never push a bill to protect Igbos living in the North and the West instead. If they care about unity, why not demand equal rights for Igbos who have lived 50 years in Kano, Lagos, or Sokoto? Let us actually highlight this word hypocrisy. Unity only exists when it is Igbo land being open, not when it's Northerner or Westerner land. Now, this is Nnamdi Kanu's ideology. Let me quote Kanu. He said, "We are not against others. We are against losing who we are." We are not against others. We're only against losing the kind of, losing our heritage and losing who we are. Now, emphasize that this bill is exactly what he wants about. Policies that slowly erase Igbo identity in the name of one Nigeria. So he's trying to say that, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is trying to say that for the fact that we are trying to give the Northerners land in Igbo land, we're trying to give the North land in Igbo land. It doesn't mean that first of all, we are doing one unity, we are doing one Nigeria, one Nigeria, one Nigeria. It doesn't mean that we should try to, to erase Igbo identity, because what Hope Uzodimma and Benjamin Kalu is trying to do now is what is to erase Igbo identity in the name of what one Nigeria. That is what they're trying to do. They want to give Northerners land in Igbo land, but they have forgotten that they have never asked them to pass a bill of let the Igbos, let the Igbos have equal rights in the north, like in Kano or Sokoto. But he's not saying such a thing. He's only talking about how to give Northerners land in Igbo land. This is very bad. Now, this is the questions I want to ask you guys. If this bill becomes law, what stops a Fulani man from becoming governor of Enugu or Abia after 10 years? Benjamin Kanu and Hope Uzodimma building unity or selling the Igbo nation? Because that is just the question. Are these people really building unity, or are they selling what? Igbo nation? Would they not ever allow this in Kano or Sokoto for an Igbo man? Why must we always be the ones bending? Why? Why is it that only Igbo people are actually not reasoning? These people now can never if you go to Igbo land now, if you go to if you go to northern side now, that's in Kaduna, you see some of our Igbo people who are paying rent. Who are paying rent for their businesses, even paying rent to live. But you want us to give the Northerners free land in Igbo. How is that possible? Now, let us take a look at the psychological effect of all this. This bill sends a message that Igbos are desperate for acceptance in Nigeria. It portrays the East as a land with no boundaries of self-respect, open to anyone to claim. Other tribes will see Igbo as people who are ready to trade identity for survival. Now, the difference between resident and indigene. Living in a place doesn't make you part of the ancestral lineage. It doesn't. Residents should give you right to work and pay tax, but not to inherit ancestral identity or control or traditional institution. This bill blurs that line and erases the meaning of what indigene. Now, the ethnic tension risk here. If an outsider becomes governor or traditional ruler in Igbo state through this bill, it will spark ethnic tension and could lead to what? Violence. The bill may unintentionally create more division instead of unity. Now, the foreign influence. With foreign interest in Nigeria's oil and gas, giving indigenous rights easily may open the door for external groups to buy loyalty and control Igbo resources indirectly. It makes the East vulnerable to both internal and external exploitation. Now, the legal chaos in all this. Once passed, thousands of people will rush to claim indigenous status across states. It could trigger endless court cases over land ownership, traditional titles, and political candidacy. The judiciary may be overwhelmed, causing more instability. Now, let me tell you guys the Igbo self-determination. This bill directly weakens the Igbo argument for self-determination and Biafra. If outsiders are not legally recognized as indigenes of Igbo states, the question of who are the real Igbos becomes complicated in international law. It plays into the hands of those who want to dilute the Igbo nation before any referendum. Now, this is just a question I want to ask. Why is Benjamin Kalu and Hope Uzodimma not consulting the Igbo people before proposing such a bill that affects our entire future? Who gave them the mandate to speak for the entire Southeast on something so sensitive? Who is telling them to pass such a bill that the North can be able to have a land in Igbo land? Who is telling them that kind of thing? Now, let me tell you guys the cultural destruction of all these things. Igbo culture is tied to ancestral villages and identity. If outsiders can claim indigenous status, it breaks that chain. Festival, titles, and rituals tied to bloodline may lose meaning as strangers inherit them legally. Now, let me give an example from other countries. In countries like Japan or China, you can live like 100 years but never become an indigene because they protect their culture. If other nations guide their heritage so fiercely, why are our leaders giving ours away just so cheaply? That is it. You can live in China for 100 days and you will never become an indigene because that is they're trying to protect their culture. Now, Hope Uzodimma and Benjamin Kalu is saying that because of an Hausa man has stayed in Igbo land for so many years that the person can become an indigene and we can give our land for the network issue. So guys, still stay with me as we continue to, so you guys should actually listen to what is really happening. Because just tell me why Hope Uzodinma and Benjamin Kalu can be this evil that they're passing a bill, to allow the northerners inherit a land in Igbo land, but these people cannot even say let them pass a bill so that our Igbo brothers who are in the north can actually get a favor of they can be paying for lands or paying for rent. So let us take a look at the demographic of manipulation. This bill can quietly change the population statistics of Igbo land. Once outsiders gain indigenous status, census data will no longer reflect the true Igbo population. This weakens political bargaining power in federal representation because numbers will be mixed with with non-Igbos. Now, the educational impact: state scholarship, bursaries and state admission quotas meant for Igbo children will be shared with outsiders claiming indigenous status. Over time, true indigenes may lose access to opportunities in their own ancestral land. Now, let's take a look at the election region potential. Politicians could relocate their supporters to Igbo states, wait for 10 years, and then use this bill to legitimize vote and install outsiders into leadership. So someone here said these are the evil men in Igbo land. Honestly, these are the evil people in Igbo land. You see Hope Uzodinma and Kalu Benjamin, these are betrayals of Igbo land. We hope Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has definitely kept these people one side. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has definitely loaned the enemies of the Igbo people. They are evil men in Igbo land. Hope Uzodinma and Benjamin Kalu. These people are actually evil. Now let's go on. So guys, please don't forget to drop your comments below, and also please share this live section so that people will be aware of what is actually going on, both in the Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's case and what the federal government are doing. So guys, let's go on. Now, these are so many unanswered questions that many people have been asking. They said, would the bill apply retroactively to people who have already lived decades in Igbo land, who will certify 10 years of residence? How will fraud be prevented? What happens if two states claim or reject the same person? Now, the cultural assimilation danger. Over time, if enough outsiders become indigenes, the Igbo language and culture could be pushed aside by other dominant cultures. Future generations may lose the sense of being distinct Igbo because identity will be diluted legally. Now, the economic strategy against Igbos. Igbo land is small compared to the north and west, allowing free indigenes status put small pressure on limited land and resources. It can cause internal displacement of real Igbo families as land become contested by new indigenes. Now, this is question of loyalty. Someone who gains indigenous status after 10 years may still have loyalty to his original ethnic group. What happens when such a person becomes governor or senator and must choose between his adopted state and his ethnic homeland? Now, this is the national unity fallacy. Benjamin Kalu and Hope Uzodinma say the bill promotes national unity. It does not promote anything. For me, I don't see any national unity that bill is promoting. But true unity is not built on erasing identities. It is built on representing differences. The bill tries to force unity in a country that hasn't even fixed basic trucks between tribes. Now, evidence from the north: even after 50 to 70 years, Igbos in the north are still called settlers. They are denied land ownership and top political positions despite living there for generations. Use this as a proof that the North will never reprocreate this bill, making it a one-sided disadvantage to Igbos. I keep asking myself, we've had so many Igbos who have lived in the North from 50 to 70 years, right? Yes, 50 to 70 years, these Igbo people have lived in the North, but still, the North are still considering them as settlers. They're not even saying that they're indigenous. So how come that Hope Uzodinma and Kalu Benjamin is saying that Northerners who are the North people who have stayed in Igbo land for 10 years should not be called indigenous? Why? And they should also be given land to them. Like, we should give them land. Why? Why we have so many of our brothers who are in the North that have stayed there for 50 or 70 years? Still, these Northerners are still seeing them as settlers. They have not even said, oh, let them give them land. Our brothers are still over there paying for land, paying for rent, and here Hope Uzodinma and Kalu Benjamin is proposing a rubbish bill. Anyway, Hope Uzodinma, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will never accept this bill from them. He will never accept it. Now, this is the future referendum problem. If a referendum for Biafra ever comes, outsiders who gain indigenous status may vote against what secession. This bill can be used as a tool to neutralize any self-determination movement in the East. Now, this is Kanu's struggle. The bill undermines the entire reason Nnamdi Kanu is in detention. He has been fighting to preserve Igbo land and autonomy, while Igbo politicians are signing it away in the name of what? One Nigeria. Now, massive public consultation needed. Such a bill should require a referendum in every Igbo state before being passed. Accuse the leaders of pushing it secretly without the contents of the people, it affects the most. No matter anything that these two people are trying to do, they will never Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will never accept such a bill from them. Now, someone said God punish all of them and his co-sabotage Benjamin. I'm telling you the honest truth. These people are like betrayals. They are betrayals to Igbo people. And Mazi Nnamdi Kanu have known people that always that betray him. So he has actually kept them aside. And I'm very, very sure that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will never accept such a bill from them. He will never. So guys, let's go on. Now, the hidden agenda angle questions if this bill is really about unity or if it's a strategic plan to weaken the Southeast politically and culturally, suggests it may be influenced by powerful interests from the North and Abuja using Igbo politicians as what pawns. Now, state autonomy issue. The bill indirectly strips states of their right to define who their indigenes are. Traditional councils and state governments may lose control over cultural and land matters if this becomes what? Federal law. Now, conflict with customary law. Igbo customary law ties land and identity to what? Ancestral lineage. This bill conflicts with centuries old cultural system and may cause legal battles between what? Customary courts and what? Federal law. Now, dangers to Igbo minorities. Igbo-speaking minorities in Rivers, Delta, and Benue may lose their identity fast because outsiders will easily claim indigenous status and erase their fragile cultural presence. Now, urbanization problem. Big Igbo cities like Enugu, Owerri, Aba, and Onitsha will be most affected because they already host large population of outsiders. Within 10 to 15 years, the political and economic control of these cities may completely shift away from true indigenes. Now, reverse colonization. Let's compare this bill to a silent colonization. No guns, no war, just a law that allows outsiders to legally take over Igbo land, identity, and resources. It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. We will never allow outsiders to come and take Igbo land, identity, and resources. No, because we've had so many of our Igbo brothers who are in the north today that they are still being called settlers. They're not even called indigenes. These are Igbo brothers who have stayed in the north for 50 to 70 years, but they will never say that they are what? Indigenes. They still call them settlers. And all of a sudden, and Kalu Benjamin is coming to tell us that the northerners should be given a land. People who have stayed over 10 years in Igbo land should be given a land. For what? No, we will not ever accept that. Now, reciprocity clause. Let us point out the bill doesn't guarantee that Igbo people will get the same rights in other regions. It is a one-way ticket. Igbo land is open, but northern and western land stays locked. This pointed that this bill, though it doesn't still guarantee that even if we give the bill that the northerners should not have a land in Igbo land, and also they should have we should allow them, we should call them indigenes. People who have overstayed in Igbo, we should call them indigenes. It doesn't still guarantee the Igbo brothers who are in the north, they will still get the same rights in other regions. No, it will not. Now, let me tell you guys the future generational loss in all these things. In 50 years, will your grandchildren still know which land belongs to their ancestors, or will it be mixed beyond our recognition? What will we tell our children when they ask how we lost our heritage without a war? What are we going to tell them? Now, this is the humiliation factor of all this. Other tribes are mocking Igbo, saying we are so desperate for acceptance that we are willing to erase our identity. Let's highlight the psychological humiliation this bill passes on the entire Igbo nation. Now, this is a national question. If Nigeria truly wants this, why not restructure into true federalism first? This bill is being pushed in a unitary system where one ethnic group controls most of the power, making it inherently dangerous to weaker regions like the Southeast. Now, spiritual and ancestral dimension. In Igbo culture, land is scared and tied to ancestors. Giving indigenous status to outsiders may spiritually offend the ancestors because it breaks the ancestral chain of land inheritance. Example from Africa. In countries like Ghana and Kenya, Residency doesn't automatically what grant indigene status because they understand the risk of what cultural what erasure. Let's use this to show that what Kanu Benjamin and Hope Uzodinma are proposing is unusual, even by what African standard. It's so unusual. When you see this bill that they're proposing, it is not going to work, oh, because the Igbos are not going to accept that at all, at all. They will never accept it. So this bill that Hope Uzodinma and Kanu Benjamin is proposing, it will not work. It will not work at all. The Igbos will never accept it. Now let's take a look at the population word displacement. This bill can speed up the displacement of rural Igbo communities as outsiders claim land in urban and strategic what areas. Over time, ancestral villages may be overtaken by legal settlers claiming what indigenous what rights. Now, undiscussed what power shifts. Once outsiders can claim indigenous status, it will affect voting demographics. Political power in Igbo states may slowly shift to non-Igbos, weakening their ability of Igbos to decide their future collectively. Now, social tension. Indigenes may start seeing long-term settlers as threats rather than neighbors, increasing social tension instead of promoting national unity. The bill may unintentionally create more division and distrust within communities. Now, loss of native land rights. In Igbo tradition, land belongs to the ancestors and is passed down through bloodlines. Granting indigenous status to outsiders break this scared trust and creates confusion about who truly owns the land. Now, risk of state capture. Powerful groups can move thousands of people into Igbo land, wait 10 years, and then legally control the politics and economy of the entire region. This could make Igbo states politically irrelevant within a generation. Now, question of consent. Let us ask, did Benjamin Kanu and Hope Uzodinma consult town unions, traditional rulers, or the people before proposing this kind of bill? Yes, because before you propose a bill, you should consult for the traditional rulers. And I'm very so certain that Hope Uzodinma and Benjamin Kanu did not consult the traditional rulers or the town unions before proposing such a bill, which I told you guys that the Igbos will never accept this bill, and also Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will never accept such a bill. Now, the lack of consultation makes the bill undemocratic and was suspicious. For the fact that they did not consult anybody before proposing this bill, it means that this lack of consultation is making this bill, undemocratic and was suspicious. Now, cultural identity loss. When outsiders gain indigenous rights and festival, language and customs may slowly be replaced by their own. In 30 to 50 years, the unique cultural identity of Igbo land may be watered down or lost completely. Let's take a look at the strategic mistake. While Igbos open their land to others, other regions are busy protecting theirs. This creates a strategic imbalance that will hurt the Southeast in the long run. This were Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's warning. Kanu has always warned that the system will try to use laws to erase Igbo heritage without firing a bullet. This bill is a clear example of what he called a legal conquest. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has been warning us a very long time ago, saying that Kanu has always warned that the system will try to use laws, to erase Igbo heritage without firing a bullet. But this bill now is a clear example of what he called a legal conquest. Now, global examples. In most countries, becoming a citizen or indigene is heavily restricted to protect cultural and historical identity. Nigeria adopting an open-door indigene policy for a fragile ethnic region is unprecedented and dangerous. Resource competition. Outsiders gaining indigene status will compete for limited state resource, leading to resettlement and economic hardship for true natives. Now, ethnic balance destroyed. Nigeria's delicate ethnic balance is based on each group protecting its heritage. If the East becomes the only open region, it disrupts the balance and makes Igbos the most vulnerable group in the federation. That is just it. So you see all these things that they're doing, it will not come to pass. So because we cannot fold our arms and watch our own brothers in the north, they pay rent, they pay rent in the north, and they still want the northerners who are in Igbo land now to give them free land. It's not possible at all. Now, this is the policy timing. The question why this bill is coming now when Nigeria is more divided than ever. Why is this bill coming now? When Nigeria is already divided, so why is this bill coming now when Nigeria is already divided than ever? Suggests it may be part of a larger plan to weaken Igbo resistance ahead of future political battles or secession debates. Now, loss of collective bargaining power. If outsiders gain indigenous rights, the definition of Igbo people becomes was diluted. It weakens the ability of Igbos to negotiate as a united ethnic group on issues like restructuring or what resource control. I'll be telling you guys the psychological welfare of all these things. Passing such a bill sends a message to Igbos that their land is not truly theirs. It's a subtle form of psychological welfare aimed at breaking in protecting what their heritage. Now, the historical lessons, British indirect rule often gave outsiders control over native communities. This bill resembles what that tactic. Once indigenous status is granted, it's almost impossible to revoke legally. Even if the bill is repealed in the future, those who already gained rights will keep them forever, making the damage what more permanent. Now, clash with traditional leaders. Traditional rulers may resist recognizing outsiders as true indigenes, leading to what tension between the law and cultural what authorities. This could destabilize Igbo traditional institutions and create what internal what conflict. Now, effects on town unions. Town unions are the backbone of Igbo governance. Granting outsiders indigenous status may cause leadership disputes in these unions, breaking their communal war structure. Human rights angle. Let's take a look at it in the human rights angle. While the bill claims to promote equality, it ignores the right of native communities to preserve their culture and ancestral identity. It prioritizes residents over heritage, which is a dangerous precedent for minority group. Fear of ethnic minority erasure. Igbo subgroups like Nsukka, Afikpo, and Anyoma could see their unique identities swallowed up faster if outsiders gain legal indigenous rights. Effect on traditional land and disputes. Igbo land disputes are already complex within families and villages. Adding outsiders with legal indigenous status will multiply conflict and drag more cases into court. Now, the long-term political engineering. In 20 to 30 years, if outsiders dominate key Igbo states politically, the region may lose its bargaining power at the federal level entirely. It becomes easier for the center to control the southeast without resistance. Biafra referendum trap. If a future referendum is held and outsiders legally recognized as indigenous votes, no, the entire Biafran dream could be buried forever. Now, generational accountability. In 50 years, when our children ask how Igbo land was legally signed away, we will say we were asleep when Benjamin Kalu and Hope Uzodinma betrayed us. Is that what we're going to be telling them? In 50 years' time now, if our children are asking us how Igbo land was legally signed away, are we going to be telling them that we were sleeping when Hope Uzodinma and Benjamin betrayed us? Is that the kind of things we're going to be telling our children? I'm not very sure that our children will be so happy hearing that, because it will be sounding somehow in their ears. Now, regional imbalance. This bill disproportionately affects the southeast because of its small landmass and high population density. Allowing outsiders indigene rights here will cause faster overcrowding and land scarcity compared to larger regions like the north. Now, fear of ethnic replacement. Over generations, if outsiders dominate leadership positions and land rights, true Igbos risk becoming minorities in their own ancestral homeland. This is not just a political issue, but an existential threat to the Igbo nation. Social structure damage. Igbo land functions on lineage and family identity. Umunna and Umada. This bill ignores that social structure could dismantle the way Igbo society organizes itself around bloodline heritage. Now, the case of Igbo entrepreneurs. Many Igbo entrepreneurs return home to invest because they trust their land and people. If outsiders become indigenous, trust may erode and diaspora Igbos may hesitate to invest in ancestral towns. Now, policy contradiction. The same Nigerian government that refuses to grant Igbos equal rights in Lagos or Kano is pushing this policy in the southeast. The same Nigeria government that refused to grant Igbos equal rights in Lagos, you will come to Lagos, they will tell you that the Lagos people will telling Igbo people. In fact, there was even a recent thing that is happening in Lagos now. They have started renaming Igbo leaders who are in Lagos, people who have stayed in Lagos for a very long period, who have invested something in Lagos. They say renaming their names to Yoruba people. Just like Charlie Street in Lagos, they renamed the man's name to Olamide Baba Street, and people are asking what is going on. They told us that Lagos is a no man's land, And now that Lagos is now trying to claim that Lagos belongs to Yorubas. I don't even understand. They say that Lagos is a no man's land, and now Yorubas are saying that Lagos belongs to them. Like, how possible is this? This to show you what is going on. I'm telling you guys, this to show you what is going on in our country. Then all of a sudden, they're not saying that Lagos now belongs to the Yoruba. The same Nigerian government that refuses to grant Igbos equal rights in Lagos or Kano is pushing this policy in the southeast. No, I don't think Igbos will never accept this kind of bill. Now, let's highlight the hypocrisy here. Unity is only demanded for Igbos and never given to them. They will tell unity is only demanded from Igbos, but this unity, they're not giving us unity, but they're demanding unity from us. Now, potential violence. If an outsider becomes governor or traditional ruler in an Igbo state under this bill, it could spark riots and what unrest. Instead of ethnic unity, this law risk triggering ethnic conflicts. Now, these are the diaspora question. People have asked me this question. If an Igbo man born in Lagos or Kaduna cannot claim indigenous status there, why should someone born in Enugu or Owerri automatically become an Igbo what indigene? Let's ask why Benjamin Kalu and Hope Uzodinma are not fighting what for reciprocity. Why are they not fighting for it? Future land laws. I said that who gain indigenous status can inherit and sell land. Within 2 generations, much of Igbo ancestral land could pass legally into non-Igbo hands forever. Now, the traditional was spirituality. In Igbo land is tied to ancestrals and chi. Granting non-Igbos equal claim over it may have spiritual consequences because ancestral land is not meant to be alienated from bloodlines. This is Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's legacy. He pointed out the irony. He said Kanu is in prison fighting to preserve Igbo land and identity, right? Why these politicians are signing it away with pen? It's something that this is crazy. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is in detention, fighting to preserve Igbo land and identity. This is the reason. This is the reason for Biafra. This is the reason for Biafra because they are trying to fight to preserve Igbo land and identity. And these politicians, these Igbo politicians, are signing it away with pen. Who authorized them? Who authorized them to pass such a bill? Who authorized Hope Uzodinma and Kalu Benjamin to authorize such a bill? Say this bill dishonors his entire struggle and sacrifice. Exactly. This particular bill now that Hope Uzodinma and Benjamin Kalu is actually proposing is dishonoring his entire struggle and sacrifice that he has for so long, for so many years been fighting for the Igbos. Now, call for a referendum in all 5 Igbo states before any such law can pass. He argued that the people, not a handful of politicians, should decide something that affects their existence. Now, let's compare it to situations in other countries where cultural erasure happened through legal assimilation, such as indigenous communities in America and Australia. One that Igbos risk becoming like displaced native tribes if they allow this bill to stand. Now, economic sabotage. This law can quietly hand over control of oil, gas, and solid mineral resources in Igbo states to outsiders claiming indigenous rights. It's not just cultural, it's a direct economic threat. That is just it. So you see, sometimes I ask myself, who even authorized these people to go and be proposing bill? Now, let's take a look at the invisible hand of the elite. Suggests this bill might not even be a true Igbo initiative, but a federal agenda disguised through Igbo politicians. It may be designed to weaken Igbo bargaining power before the 2027 or 2023 election. Danger to village autonomy. Igbo villages are semi-autonomous with their own identity and titles. This bill would override that system by allowing strangers to claim native status and disrupt centuries of lineage-based governance. Threat to Igbo language. If large numbers of outsiders become indigenes, future generations in some towns may grow up speaking Hausa or Yoruba more than the Igbos. Language is the lifeline of culture. Once it goes, identity collapses. Inequality in application, highlighting that the North already has laws and customs that restrict land ownership and traditional rights to natives. If the bill is passed, only the Southeast will truly open up, making it a one-sided sacrifice. Disrespect to ancestors. Igbo ancestral land is spiritual bound to descendants. Selling indigenous rights to outsiders dishonors the ancestors who died protecting that land. So that is just it. So selling indigenous right now to outsiders, it dishonors the ancestors who died protecting that land. Because I'm sure that there are many of our ancestors who have died protecting that land. All of a sudden, they're sending a bill, to sell to sell our rights to outsiders. How is that possible? Now let us talk about the misplaced priority here. They ask why Igbo politicians are pushing this bill instead of fighting for security in the East, federal infrastructure, release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, and economic empowerment of the youth. That's what people are asking. Why is the Igbo politicians like Hope Uzodinma and Benjamin Kalu fighting for such a bill instead of them to be fighting for the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the kind of insecurity in the East, and federal infrastructure and economic empowerment of the youth? You're not even talking about that. What they're talking about is how to give our land to non-indigens. This is totally bad. Now, it exposes how out of touch they are with the needs of their people. This is telling us that the Southeast politicians, that the Igbo politicians, they have exposed us that they are out of touch. Like they don't even care about the needs of their people. That is just what they're trying to portray here. Now, creation of second-class Igbos. If outsiders gain indigenous rights, conflict will arise between bloodline descendants and new legal indigenes. It may create a class war over who is a real Igbo and who is not. Now, risk of cultural mixing. Igbo culture is unique. Allowing legal assimilation may slowly replace Igbo values with outside cultural practices. In 50 years, in 50 years, traditional Igbo marriage, inheritance, and chieftaincy system could be gone. Now, the potential use against secession. A diluted population can be used to argue Igbo land is no longer purely Igbo, so self-determination does not apply. This bill can become a legal weapon to block Biafra permanently. No mandate from the people emphasizes that Benjamin Kalu and Hope Uzodinma have no mandate to decide the identity of millions of Igbos. They have no identity. They have no mandate to do that. You cannot come and decide the identity of millions of Igbos. Who gave them the right to do that? This kind of law should only come through a popular referendum. If it is not coming from a popular referendum, then we can call it is undemocratic. The bill is undemocratic and suspicious. Now, the unprecedented move in Africa. Most African nations protect native identity fiercely. Nigeria attempting this in the most culturally sensitive region shows either ignorance or a deliberate plan to destabilize the East. Warning from history. Now, this points to how native tribes in South America and Australia lost their land through legal assimilation policy. This bill could be the first step to making the Igbo people a minority in their ancestral home. So that is it. They can make them to become minorities in their own home. And it is not going to work at all. Honestly, it will not work. Now, the creation of power vacuum. This bill can destabilize local politics as outsiders begin competing with native-born Igbos for leadership positions. It could create factionism within states, leading to weak governance and easy federal manipulation. Now, erosion of community trust. Igbo communities are built on trust within families and extended clans. When outsiders can legally claim indigenous status, that trust is broken because the social fabric is no longer based on bloodline heritage. Now, the impact on traditional marriage and inheritance. Igbo marriage systems tie lineage and ancestral and inheritance towards ancestral land. Outsiders becoming indigenous will disrupt inheritance law, causing disputes over who has right to property and family land. Now, inconsistency with Nigeria's federal character. Nigeria's federal character principle is based on protecting native groups in each state. This bill goes against that by erasing the meaning of native entirely in Igbo states. Example of Lagos and Kano. Use Lagos as a case study. Despite millions of Igbos living there for decades, they are still not considered indigenous. Yes, even recently now, Lagos people have started renaming legends in Igbo land. Sorry, legends in Igbo. They started renaming their names to Yoruba names. This is totally bad and unacceptable. So imagine people who have contributed a lot in Lagos State, who have invested a lot in Lagos State, all of a sudden they are coming out to tell them that they have renamed their name and put a Yoruba man's name there. It's totally bad. Now in Kano, some Igbo families have been there for 70 plus years and are still called settlers in Kano. Now let me ask, if we are not given the same rights elsewhere, why are our leaders opening our land? Hey, Igbo politicians have betrayed us. In fact, we are gone. Igbo politicians have betrayed us. This is the question. Anytime I just keep asking myself this question. If we are not given the same rights elsewhere, if we are not given the same rights elsewhere in Kano and in Lagos, why our leaders, why our Southeast politicians opening our land to other people? Why? Why are they doing such a thing? This is a big betrayal in the highest order. Now, once indigenous rights are granted to outsiders, this is just a legal trap. Once indigenous rights are granted to outsiders, reversing it becomes almost impossible without violating human rights law. Even if Igbos regret it later, the damage will be what will be permanently. Now, threat to Igbo unity. Different Igbo states may respond differently, creating division among the Southeast on whether to accept or reject the law. This could weaken collective Igbo action on future world political issues. Cultural festival impact. Outsiders gain indigenous status will affect cultural festivals like the New Yam, that's Iriji and Ofala. They may demand changes or participation that dilute the spiritual meaning of these traditions. Now, strategic of silent takeover. This bill is a modern tool for silent takeover. That's what I just think. Now, Igbo self-worth. Passing this bill signals to the world that Igbos don't value their land or heritage enough to protect it. For the fact that they're passing this bill, it has told us a signal that Igbo people, they don't value their land or heritage enough to protect it. Other people are out there protecting their land. The Yoruba people are in Lagos protecting their own heritage, but here we are trying to even sell our own. Eh? The fact that passing this bill, it signals to the world that Igbos don't value their land or heritage enough, to protect it. Now, it damages the perception of the Igbo nation as a proud, independent world people. Now, these are questions that provoke debate. Would Benjamin Kanu or Hope Uzodinma allow their family land to be given to a stranger after 10 years? Would they really allow that? Now, if unity is the goal, why not start by granting Igbo indigenes status? But why not start by granting Igbo indigene status in the north and west first? That is the first stage. If he's saying that unity is the goal, first of all, what I want Hope Uzodinma to do is, to start granting Igbo indigene status in the north and in the west first. Then by that time, we will know that it is unity that he's actually fighting for. Now, is this bill for national interest or for political survival? That is what I want to ask. So, is this bill for national interest or is it just for political survival? Because this is actually what is getting out of hand, and I know that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will never accept to this. Now, please, guys, there's this normal ritual we normally do here every time. So this is a platform where we actually agitate for Biafra and for the freedom of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, and also it's a platform where we talk about what the Nigerian government is doing to the Igbo people and exactly everything that is going on based on what Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's case. So please, I want you guys to type in the comment section, free Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Also, justice delayed is not justice denied. I also want you to type in the comment section, the only solution to Nigerian problem is what? Is to free Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, because that is the only solution to Nigerian's problem. Free Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. So guys, please, I want you guys to type this in the comment section. So let's go on. Impact on Igbo identity over generation. Within 30 to 50 years, children born under this law may not know which communities are truly Igbo or which traditions are authentic. It risks creating a mixed cultural identity that dilutes centuries or heritage and history. Now, political motivation of the sponsors. Let's ask whether Benjamin Kanu and Hope Uzodinma are pushing this bill for personal political words gain, to curry favor with Abuja, or to position themselves as what nationalists. Now, suggest that this bill may not represent the people, but a small elite trying to secure power. Now, risk of targeted migration. Powerful groups could deliberately send thousands of settlers to Igbo state to exploit the 10-year rule. In a generation, this could change the demographic of entire states without a single shot being fired. Now, stripping the value of indigene. Indigeneity is not just about where you live, but about ancestry, bloodline, and shared history. This bill reduces it to a time-based residence, stripping the world of its cultural and historical meaning. Now, conflict with Igbo land tenure system. Igbo land ownership is communal and tied to family lineage. Outsiders claiming indigenous status could disrupt the traditional land tenure system and create legal chaos in village ownership structure. Now, a So guys, like I'm always telling you guys that you see this thing, that this bill that these two people are passing, it is not going to come to pass. So in fact, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will never accept such a bill from them. Now let's talk about the undisclosed words impact on town union politics. Town union controls development and land decisions and what contract preservation. Outsiders gaining indigenous status could disrupt these systems and shift decision-making power away from what ancestral what families. Yes, because if outsiders gain indigenous status, it could what disrupt this system and shift decision-making power away from what ancestral what families. Now, potential spiritual consequences in Igbo cosmology, land is scared and tied to the chi of the ancestors. Breaking that chain by giving it to strangers could have spiritual what consequences for communities and what future generation. Misplaced what unity. True unity starts with what reciprocity. If the North and West are not ready to implement the same law, then this is not unity, but a one-sided sacrifice. Yes, but a one-sided sacrifice at the expense of what the Igbos. Now, economic resource control. I'm telling you guys the economic resource controls. Outsiders gain indigenous status. Outsiders gaining indigenous status could give them right to oil wells, mineral deposits, and state economic opportunities in the southeast. It risks economic colonization of Igbo land through what legal means. Now, call for referendum. Emphasize that this is too sensitive for a few politicians to decide. Demand that every Igbo state hold a public referendum before passing any such law is passed. Now, like I always tell you guys this thing. The only solution to all these things happening now, because you guys have seen that they are trying to, take over, the Igbo politicians are trying to sell Igbo land to outsiders. Yes, that's what they're trying to do. And I keep asking myself, if Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was actually released, all these things will not be happening. These people will not even be trying to sell Igbo land to outsiders, because Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the reason why he's in continuous detention today is because he is trying to preserve Igbo culture and identity, and now these Igbo politicians are out here disturbing him. These people are out here selling all the whole sacrifice he has been doing. They want to spoil Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's plan, and it's not going to work. So please, guys, I want you guys to please write in the comment section, free Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, and also justice delayed is not justice denied. Because like I always tell you guys, this platform is where we talk about Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, everything about Mazi Nnamdi, and what the way the Nigerian government have been treating them, and what the Igbo politicians are always doing at the back of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and their plans and agendas. So guys, please drop your comment below, and also I want you guys to actually listen to what this lawyer have to say, the lawyer of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, and I'll be right back to analyze the reason why the Igbo politicians are passing this bill. Guys, just watch this video and I'll be right back.
The reason Nnamdi Kanu, have a discussion with him. You have been having a discussion with bandits and the so-called repentant Boko Haram. Tell me the offense of Nnamdi Kanu, because he's agitating for self-determination, which is his own constitutional fundamental rights granted to him by the constitution and the law.
Well, the government's anger is not because of the agitation, because they know that everyone has a right to agitate, but they said the way he was going about it, and then people were being incited. Well, that's even not what I'm
what of the one the wife of the president incited people during the election? The wife of the president, he incited people that Igbo should go. What of the one Oba of Lagos said that Igbo should go and fall into lagoon? What of those that came out and said that Igbos will not vote? If you are not voting for APC, you will not vote. What happened to them? Has anybody been arrested? That Nnamdi Kanu said something, then you now term that thing he said as is a terrorist, is a crime of terrorism. You charge him for terrorism. His own lawful organization that is registered in almost all the whole countries in America and Europe and Asia, and you now came to Nigeria, you term it a terrorist organization. Now you are now saying that now that IPOB is being recognized in almost all the whole countries in America and Europe, so you are now saying that America, France, Germany, they are recognizing a terrorist organization because you don't want anybody to agitate. You want to suppress anybody. If you talk, you kill him, suppress him, jail him. In a country that is predicated on a constitutional governance, it cannot work like that.
Okay, let's get back to the ministerial nomination of Bianca Ojukwu, because you said he took away one from Anambra and brought in another. But remember that the president took away the minister based on the KPI results that came out, which he was not even the one, that did the evaluation. It was the result given to him with which he did that, meaning that if actually the minister had performed, above board in the KPI, they wouldn't have had any reason to remove her rather.
Now, still on that ministerial list, we have 48 of them. Am I right? And we have 36 states in this country, including FCT 37. So apart from Southeast, that have only 5, every other region have more than 6, apart from Southeast. Now, check since 1999, we have been having series of president. Just okay, let's use what is going on now. The president is from where? Vice is from where? Speaker is from where? Senate president is from where? CJN is from where? Court of Appeal president is from where? National Industrial Court president is from where? Chief Judge of Federal High Court is from where? And they are saying that the people of Southeast belongs to this country.
Are you sure Max, are you sure you're not? I mean, it's just like what I said too. I mean, isn't it time we started to be less sentimental about this diversity?
We have to apply it now. We are talking about, we are saying that the only people that are qualified to hold all this position, nobody from South is qualified. On what basis?
Are you saying that there's
but the chief of naval staff is from the Southeast?
Huh?
The chief of naval staff?
From where? I'm talking about the key position. Number 1 person, number 2 person, number 3 person, number 4 person, number 5 person. The key position. We have 3 arms of government: the executive, the judiciary, and the parliament. You can never see anybody from Southeast there. Now, the point we are talking about is that when I'm not even talking about, I'm in court about lopsided appointments.
Okay.
I can avail that my process because I did an intensive research in that process. File it, asking court to view whether this particular appointment, whether this particular governance is in line with Federal Character Establishment Act, an act of National Assembly that said that you should carry everybody along. Section 14 of the Constitution also said that you should carry everybody along. And we are not doing all these things. You are telling me that, yes, now that you have removed Kennedy Handele and you are now brought in Janko Juku, that the people of Southeast will jubilate. Are you talking to idiots? Look at the people that you are talking about. Check, let me start with the sports. In football, the people that have made Nigeria proud are the people of Southeast. In commerce, in aviation industry, name it, in academics. They are from people of Southeast. But when it comes to power, they are not qualified. And we want them to be happy. Listen, let me tell you, like today that is Monday, go to Southeast. And my annoyance is that these things are avoidable for Christ's sake. The one at Niger, the reason and the Kalu, let us start addressing this issue. This early morning, somebody sent me a clip, something they posted, that they said from, I think they said next week, maybe the next 2 weeks, that there will be nothing like federal courts in the whole of Southeast. What do I mean by federal courts? Federal courts, National Industrial Court is a federal court. Federal High Court is a federal court. Court of Appeal is a federal court. Now, the judges that are there, most of them are not Igbos. Majority of them are not Igbos. How should you risk somebody to go and preside in the Court of Appeal over the judicial division, Oka Judicial Division, Enugu Judicial Division? How can you appoint somebody to go and preside in Federal High Court in the Southeast, National Industrial Court in the Southeast? And you are not even thinking about all this. And the judges are not even thinking about, So the point we are talking about is that when there is a problem, look for a solution. Personally, somebody like us, we are not even, I'm defending Nnamdi Kanu, one of his lawyers. So when they say so you people are not doing what you're supposed to do, the person that is calling you, you don't even know him. He's using the hidden number to call you. You don't even know what they're talking about court. The only thing that you went to court and you were unable to bring Nnamdi Kanu out. They're not even safe.
Okay, Maxwell, let me ask you this, because from what you're saying, I've also heard IPOB many times deny, allegations of being involved in some of the killings that happen in the Southeast and some of the, the ills that we see in the society. Even the sit-at-home in question, IPOB has also claimed that he has not asked anybody to sit at home. I don't know, get my point. So the point I'm making is that from what you're saying, it would look as if what you're actually trying to say is that it's because Nnamdi is being held,
yes,
that is why the ills in the society in the Southeast has escalated. Does it have anything to do with him? That is what you're saying.
Do you know why? Nnamdi Kanu, IPOB is his initiative. He established it, he organized it. Now, when you now kidnapped him or adopted him, and unlawfully, because the Supreme Court have said that he was unlawfully brought into this country, and you kept him incommunicado, everybody on his own. This one we kill, you said at IPOB. This one we maim, you said at IPOB. Everybody on his own. That's why I asked you the question, who is IPOB? The IPOB is Nnamdi Kanu. So Nnamdi Kanu, if Nnamdi Kanu is out, you will know who is who. Simon Ekpa will talk his own, Emma Powerful will talk his own, this one will talk his own, this one. Who is IPOB? That you are even talking. Simon Ekpa is in Finland. Emma Powerful, I don't know where he's operating from. Another person is operating from somewhere. Issuing threats. Just like the one somebody told me. I don't even know where that one is coming from. So the easiest way to do is the one that you know, Nnamdi Kanu. Then tell Attorney General, as he discontinue the charges against the president of Mieti Ala Kato, discontinue that of Showore, they are all terrorism. Tell them to discontinue this of that of Nnamdi Kanu, and allow Nnamdi Kanu to agitate. It is his right. I told you the other day.
You see, that's where the problem is, really. The guarantee, that there will not be problems, even if Nnamdi Kanu is, because you're saying allow him to agitate, and he goes about it the way he used to, like, the government have actually feared. That may also create more problems, don't you think?
Let me tell you, there are some things that you asked me the other day whether they are talking about condition given Nnamdi Kanu. I told you one question. I say, if you give Nnamdi Kanu condition that he feel after meeting up that condition, he will still live like a human being, so be it. But when you give him condition and you are removing that made him a human being, he will tell you no. What is that made you a human being? That thing that makes you a human being is your ability to exercise your fundamental rights. And when somebody said, now I'm going to employ you here, I will be paying you $500,000 every month, but you will not talk, you will not move out, you say, do away with your job. When somebody said, I'm going to release you, but I'll cut one of your hands, say no. The agitation for self-determination is a fundamental right. And if you people fail to understand it, I can agitate that I need the Republic of Maxwell. Yeah. It is my right. Anybody can agitate. I don't even need crowd to follow me. It is when you now feel that you have gotten the necessary need the necessary qualities, then so be it. It is now left for the president, who believe in democracy, who believe in government of the people by the people, to apply your initiative. What is the initiative? Release the person. Start addressing all those issues that gave rise to this agitation. It has been there. Uwazirike was agitating during Obasanjo. A lot of people were agitating. So now that you have arrested, you come down Uwazirike that time. Nnamdi Kanu came up. Now that you have arrested Nnamdi Kanu, someone is there. I think this data from Ned Nwoko was telling you that even if you arrest Simon Ekpa today, another Simon Ekpa will come out. So the issue there is that address all those issues.
So for you, it's not about ministerial appointment.
No. That one. Okay, that is a complete distraction. It shouldn't even come in. Okay. After coming in now, let Bianca come and address the Igbos in Enugu.
All right.
So you guys have listened to what the lawyer of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu said, right? Now, just like I'm going to be telling you guys, the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is going to put an end to all these things. All this bill that Hope Uzodinma and Benjamin Kalu has been proposing. All those bills that they have been proposing that they should give Northerners land in Igbo land. That any North that has stayed like 10 years in Igbo land should become an indigene. You see, all these things will not be happening. Because the main reason why Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is fighting for Biafra is because he wants to preserve Igbo people's heritage. Now, Hope Uzodinma Kalu Benjamin from nowhere wants to come and spoil the thing he has suffered. He has suffered every day for. It's not going to work. So guys, please, I want you to actually drop your comments below. Tell me what you guys really think about all those things. And please don't forget that in this channel, all we do in this channel is just like a ritual, something that we do. We always type on the comment section, free Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Also, justice delay is not justice delay, because we want the federal government, want the federal government to be aware that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is innocent. And this man has been in continuous detention since 2021. To date. Anyway, guys, that's all we have for today. Please don't forget to share this live, guys, and drop your comment below. And also don't forget that this platform is talking about everything concerning Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and what the federal governments are doing to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and the plans and evil agendas of the Igbo politicians, as well as what Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's freedom is all going to be about. So guys, don't forget that he'll be coming to court on the 10th October 2025. So I'm going to be giving you guys latest updates concerning Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and everything about him. So guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in my next live section.